What I'd like to do is to respond to a number of questions that we have had about the air passenger duty. We can't meaningfully talk about the state of the industry without talking about one of the aspects that has started to indicate that it is not only discriminatory, but it is hurtful to Caribbean. Griffith pointed out the Caribbean is the most tourism-dependent region in the world, and tourism accounts for over 2 million jobs, which means 1 in every 9 in the region. And you've already heard that we've now passed, in terms of tourism arrivals, the 23 million visitor mark, and that's for stayover arrivals, but cruise visits are at the 20 million person mark. Now, out of the UK, there's 1.1 million visitors annually, and that represents about a 24% of the arrivals to the region, or from all European countries, or 5% in total. Thank you. Now, here's the percentage contribution to the arrivals out of the UK, and this is the reason why Barbados and a number of our member countries in CTO have been so strident on the matter of protecting their territory, protecting their economies in regard to the threat that we see from the air passenger duty. This is primarily the reason. In Barbados, 34% of the tourism arrivals are from the United Kingdom. Antigua, 29%. Montserrat, 28%. Grenada, 24%. Saint Lucia, 22%. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 17%. Jamaica, 10%. Trinidad and Tobago, 9%. Cuba at 8%. Arrivals from the UK to the Caribbean are declining, and it is important to mention that arrivals to the Caribbean from other source markets are increasing. The APD is therefore considered by regional and international institutions to be having a negative effect on the Caribbean, and this is the APD effect as described both in the Caribbean and outside of the Caribbean. UK companies in the aviation, travel and tourism industries are being damaged by APD as bookings to the Caribbean decline. I want to emphasize the fact that this threat from the APD is not only a Caribbean-centered threat, but as the business to the Caribbean declines, so does the business that is generated by the companies in the UK that depend upon booking that business to the Caribbean. The tax, as we know, discriminates against the Caribbean as well as Caribbean people living in the United Kingdom, and so we believe that a rebanding, a reclassification of where the Caribbean is on the scale of the APD needs to happen. From November, the APD payable by a visitor to the Caribbean traveling in economy was increased by 25%. That was November of 2009. From November last year, the increase was 87% in premium economy, which is an important market segment for the Caribbean, and the increases were 25% and 94% respectively in APD from one class to another. The cost to travelers, these are wholly unacceptable increases as far as we're concerned, when our economies are struggling in the middle of a global economic recession. What does this really mean in practical terms? It means that in practical terms, a family traveling to the Caribbean in economy class, a family of 4, let us say, is paying an additional £300 in air passenger duty. And if they're traveling in any class above economy, any class at all above economy, they're paying an additional £600 in air passenger duty. It's an important point to mention because one of the things that the Caribbean, and the Chairman has emphasized this many times, the Caribbean has never questioned the right of any sovereign government to impose a tax. The Caribbean itself has been accused of having its own taxes on airline tickets. But nothing in the Caribbean compares to the scale of this. A family of 4 traveling to this country or any other country in the Caribbean out of the United Kingdom in economy is now paying £300 additional in air passenger duty alone. And if for the extra comfort they want to ride in any class above economy, that doubles. It is significant. So we're saying that the Caribbean has to be rebanded. We're saying that there is a discriminatory nature in the way that the Caribbean is categorized, because the Caribbean countries, all of us, have been placed in Band C, whereas in the United States, for instance, all of the United States is in Band B. And clearly there are some parts of the United States that are considerably further away from London than the Caribbean is. I've mentioned the actual amounts that are payable, and worth repeating is the fact that we've seen decreasing arrivals from the United Kingdom ever since the increases in APD started to really take effect. The concerns are many. Beyond rebanding of the region and the development of a more equitable relationship between the distance traveled and the taxation of emissions, we remain concerned about factors that have to do with the prospect of additional costs to passengers to the Caribbean arising from the European Union emissions trading system. We are concerned about uncertainty surrounding the manner in which airlines might pass this on to consumers, and we're concerned about the absence of any information on a possible per-plane tax. In other words, we have to make our concerns known about this threat to the Caribbean economies, and we're unsure about exactly where it's going to go. The recommendation that the Caribbean governments have been making is very clear. The only viable and equitable solution for the region and its community in the UK is the redesign of the air passenger duty to provide a better and revenue-neutral rebalancing between long-haul and short-haul destinations. The last part of what I'll say will take a minute or so, and I think it's important because everyone certainly has a fairly good understanding that there's a threat to the Caribbean economies called the air passenger duty. But people are still asking, what is it that we have done as a group? What is it that the Caribbean Tourism Organization has done to help its 33 member countries in general, and specifically the ones that are dependent upon business from the United Kingdom? What have we done in the face of this crisis? We've put it in chronological order for you, and to summarize, we've contracted the services of experts in the UK to help us to deal with this issue at various levels. We've mobilized our own resources there, our offices in London as well as our PR agency. We've organized meetings with the Caribbean diaspora leaders and members of the travel community. We've been in touch constantly with our Caribbean High Commissioners in London to organize Caribbean diaspora leaders in a letter-writing campaign to UK MPs. This has been extremely important because what we're saying here is that the voters in the United Kingdom, whose lives are also being impacted by this, have some sort of responsibility to know the facts, and they have brought those facts to the attention of their members of Parliament, and certainly they've let their MPs know how this is affecting them. People trying to come back home to the Caribbean. Many members of the Caribbean diaspora want to do that on a regular basis for all kinds of family reasons and so on, and they are now impacted severely. We have published articles and conducted a number of interviews with the British media and with the Caribbean media. We've had a number of high-level meetings. Perhaps one of the most impactful of those was when the chairman led a delegation of 6 ministers to the United Kingdom and delivered a number of weeks ago, in fact towards the end of the year during World Travel Market, a report, a significant document that researched the matter of the APD, its impact on Caribbean economies, and made some very specific recommendations which got to the attention of the British government. And I'm pleased to say that among all of the ministers that received the report, we certainly were heartened to see the Treasury Minister give a response. The Tourism Minister got it in his hand personally from our Chairman as well. John Penrose is the Tourism Minister in the UK, and he received it personally. And so the fact is that the CTO has been able, in collaboration with our private sector partners, the CHDA, and in collaboration with agencies throughout the region. Certainly we've been in touch on a regular basis with CARICOM, and we have partnered as well, and this is important to note, with an international coalition of countries that have become aware of the impacts of the APD on their economies as well. So working closely with the UN World Tourism Organization, working closely with the World Travel and Tourism Council and others, we've been able to bring attention to this issue. So we've covered, we think, the important basis in terms of bringing this matter to the attention of all sections of the UK economy. I think one of the things that we should mention as well is, and our chairman's been certainly strident on this, was to make sure that while we were bringing the matter to the attention of the levels that I've mentioned, we wanted to make sure also that Prime Minister David Cameron was aware of the way that the Caribbean feels about the issue. And so recently the CARICOM Chairman, the Honourable Tillman Thomas, who's the Prime Minister of Grenada, sent a letter off to Prime Minister David Cameron so that we could make sure that at the highest level of the British government the matter was also being addressed. And the final point that I'll make on this is that on March the 23rd there will be the delivery in the UK Parliament of a budget statement delivered by Chancellor of the Exchequer George Osborne, and that statement will be instructive to us in terms of what the UK government has to say about APD and aviation taxation at this stage of the development. We think it will trigger a series of developments which the Caribbean will certainly want to be involved in.